Welcome to r/slash Pettyrevenge, where a dumb Karen messes with the wrong homeowner. Our next Reddit post is from Picture. I live next to a school, and I've had parents back up into my driveway to wait for their kids. If I'm not going anywhere, I don't mind. No harm, no foul. One day, I come home to find a woman in my driveway. I got out of my car and asked her to please pull out for a second so that I could pull in and then she could pull back to where she was before. She said, "I'll only be a few minutes." I said, "Ma'am, I live here and I'd like to get to my garage." Because it's a narrow street and parents are now parked on both sides, the street access is now narrow and only one car can get by at a time. I told her that I can't wait here for a few minutes because I'm blocking traffic. "Well, I'll be moving in a bit." I said, "Okay, no, you won't be." I then parked perpendicular to her vehicle, blocking my own driveway and her vehicle. As I walked by, I told her that I really have to use the bathroom and I have stomach cramps. I told her, "You're welcome to call the cops if you like. I'll be out in a bit." The look on her face after she realized what was happening was priceless. A few minutes later, I could hear honking. A few more minutes later, I hear honking and my doorbell ringing. Only because I saw that it was a child ringing my doorbell did I answer. I said, "I'll be out in a minute. I'm washing my hands." I could hear the little boy screaming to his mother, "He says he's washing his hands!" By the time I came out a few more minutes later, all the vehicles and students were gone. I very slowly walked past her car, avoiding eye contact, and got into my car. I adjusted the mirror, moved the car seat forward, then back slowly, started the car, and moved my car forward slowly. All I heard was the tire screeching and the car horn honking as she left. Her windows were rolled up, so I can only assume that the little boy got an earful of nice words as she was leaving. My neighbors were wondering what was going on with all the honking. When I explained, they said, "Yeah, that's kind of what we figured." Man, what a scumbag, using your own little boy as a meat shield to avoid public shame. What a terrible mother. OP, when you answered the door to the little boy, you should have said, "Sorry, my mommy told me not to talk to strangers," and then shut the door on him. Our next Reddit post is from Mark Brev. So, my kid brother got married 12 years ago this year. Since they're not religious, they got married and had their reception at a tithe barn at a country house. My dad tried to come up with a unique wedding present for them. So instead of getting several wedding cars for them, he would hire one car to take them from the venue to their hotel, and as a surprise, hire a helicopter to take the bride and her dad from my parents' place when she was getting ready. Then, after the ceremony, the newlyweds, her immediate family, and our immediate family would each get a 10-minute flight. So we set about looking for a helicopter to hire. We find this one company, and they survey my parents' land to make sure they can get in and out. And they do the same at the venue, confirm that everything is okay, and my dad signs the contract and pays the 50% deposit. 3 weeks before the wedding, the helicopter people call back and decide that they can't actually get the helicopter into either the venue or the field, and that they would have to cancel the event, and they would refund the deposit when they do their next invoice pay at the end of the month. Cue my dad losing his cool, and by the end of the day, he got his money back. What followed was a mad scramble to find another helicopter company, which, where we lived, wasn't exactly easy to do. After a fraught couple of days, we found another firm who was more than happy with getting in and out of each place, that were cheaper and more relaxed than the initial company. When we told them why we were booking them last minute, they told us that we weren't the first people that they'd heard of being let down by the other helicopter company. Here's where the petty and, honestly, unintentional revenge comes in. Back then, I was a frequent contributor to a car forum that I'll call Mark's Car Nerd Forum. It wasn't a massive forum. At most, I think it had like 70 members, but it was ours. Anyways, out of frustration, I posted on the open pages about how pissed off and stressed we had been over the whole situation with that helicopter company. Nothing I wrote was untrue. I just laid out the facts of what they did and the stress that it put us through a couple of weeks before the wedding. Of course, the guys all chimed in support about how awful we had been treated, until someone pointed out that we, as a forum, had paid for a Google rankings boost, and that if someone searched for a particular thing, for example, Lamborghini, then our forum would be on Google page 1 because one of us had posted about it. So every single member of this forum started making posts about how terrible that helicopter company is. Within a day, if you search the name of that helicopter company on Google, one of the top results on page 1 was a link titled, "Such and such helicopter company are a bunch of absolute cocks." Eventually, one of the owners of the helicopter company emailed our forum administrator demanding the post be removed because it was damaging his firm's reputation. Dave, our admin, told him that unless he could provide irrefutable proof that my version of events was in any way incorrect, then the post would be staying up. This was followed by various threats of legal action, to which Dave responded by locking the post with the message, "Such and such helicopter company have threatened to sue our forum to remove this post. We have repeatedly asked them to provide evidence that this version of events is in any way untrue, which they have failed to do so. Until such time that they do, this post will remain up." Our next Reddit post is from Tired Worker. I had a rich boss once who was only rich because of the wealth from his grandparents. This guy was a complete and utter moron. He made nonsensical financial decisions and burned through hundreds of thousands of dollars in completely avoidable mistakes. But because he had money from his ancestors, he just shrugged off these losses and continued on. He also had only the faintest idea about how to run his company or how to keep or lead employees. I was basically keeping the company together. As such, I was the naysayer who blocked 90% of his stupid plans and decisions. Due to my negativity, I was fired. This guy was also arrogant as hell because he had a master's and PhD in economics. I thought, there's no way in hell this guy can have a master's and a PhD because he's so damn stupid. So I searched for his master's and PhD thesis. I ended up on his university library, and what a surprise, on the second page of his master thesis, I found a text passage without a citation. After like 40 minutes, I found another 10 passages that he copied without citation. Then I spent about 20 minutes looking over his PhD thesis, and I found another 2 cases of plagiarism. So then I gathered all my evidence and wrote an anonymous email to his university. A year later, he lost both his master's and his PhD because of his plagiarism. I know this because people who still work with him say that he exploded. The university just thanked me, but they told me they can't provide further info due to data protection. So either he paid someone to write it for him and that person just didn't care, or he just copied all the text and thought that he would never be caught. He wrote both papers back in the 80s. So if you have a stupid boss with a degree and they did you wrong, it might be worth your time to check their thesis. Our next Reddit post is from Secret Pies. Last week, my husband and I went shopping. We left one shop and we wanted to go to another, which was on the other side of the car park. We walked over there and there were no trolleys, so I said that I would drive the car over. It's one of those shops where you order at the till and they bring it from the warehouse to the till so that you can take it to your car. Well, my husband called me lazy for wanting to move the car. I tried to explain my side, but no, he was adamant that I was lazy. I went ahead and moved the car because I'm not going to mess up my back carrying an outdoor table and chair set to the car. My husband berated me while we were in the queue, calling me lazy, saying that he didn't realize he was married to someone so lazy. I ended up leaving the shop without the table and chairs because he kept pushing for a reaction. Today, we went back to that shop. He said that he would pick up the table and chairs while I went to another shop. Guess what? No trolleys. He called me and asked me to drive the car over. Did I? Of course not. That would be lazy. He started to get pissed off and then realized that he didn't have a leg to stand on. He carried each box separately from the shop to the car. 4 trips there, 4 trips back. Each time he asked me to move the car and I said, "But that would make you lazy. I didn't realize I married someone so lazy." Then OP posted an update. I contacted my lawyer regarding the divorce 10 days ago. This petty revenge just happened yesterday. I'll hand him the papers with witnesses just in case his behavior takes a turn for the worse again. He's recently started to threaten me with beatings if I don't comply. Then OP posted another update. The divorce papers came Wednesday evening. I gave them to him yesterday morning. My brother and 2 of my brother's friends, both of my husband's parents, and his brother were present. The police were on standby. Only my brother and his friends knew what was about to happen. My brother was recording the whole thing, and it's a good thing he did. My husband flipped out, punched holes in the wall, ripped some doors off the hinges, destroyed my things, threatened to kill me, threatened to kill himself, and he tried to go to the kitchen to get a knife. It wasn't great. His parents were shocked and tried to get him to calm down, but he ended up hurting his mom. By this time, the police were already nearly there and he was arrested. I've had nothing but apology messages from his side of the family saying they had no idea that he was like this. I sent them the voice recordings that I had of my husband these past few months of him threatening me, and I explained how he changed since our wedding day. Well, that story escalated quickly. Our next Reddit post is from Haunted Ghost Adams. My mom passed away last year, the day before my birthday, after 5 months of suffering. She didn't know how sick she was, and by then, it was too late to make a will. She even mentioned this to me the last time that I saw her, a couple of weeks before she passed. She apologized to me, and even said that since her husband was getting everything she owned, I probably wouldn't see a penny of it. Because of the state that she passed away in, all the inheritance went to her husband. I was on good terms with the guy, and he agreed to share half of it with me, to my surprise. It was nice to know that I could trust him, and he was the only thing I had left that was connected to my mother. All of my other family had passed away, so I was all on my own. After many months of going back and forth with him and trying to figure out when he would send me the money, I realized that he was lying to me. He kept giving me excuses and stories about how he'd send me the money tomorrow, or next week, or next month. It never stopped. At one point, he told me that he had a relative in Europe that left him $1 million, and if I could just wait until he got that money, he would double what he owed me and then give it to me. Finally, I had enough of being jerked around and told him that I thought that he was lying. Then he blocked my number, and there was nothing I could do. Or was there? It's not much, but I realized that while I couldn't see his friends list on Facebook, I could see all of his posts where his friends commented. I could see all the birthday wishes left on his profile. So I went to all those people and sent them a carefully crafted message about what happened and how much money he stole. The thing about my mom's husband is that their whole relationship, he was dealing with issues that his brother caused when their father passed away and his brother stole the power of attorney and stole all the inheritance. All of his friends and family have been hearing stories about how awful his brother is and how he was going to pay. Now, this man is doing to me what his brother did to him. Even if his friends don't care about him being a bad person, maybe they'd be interested in knowing how much money he got. I've heard stories about people winning the lottery and how all friends and family turned on them. I'm hoping that he'll get in trouble with some people, and even more people contacting him with their hands out. I hope he ends up with no one on his side, so he'll know how I feel being on my own. Yeah, OP, this is decent petty revenge, but I'm mostly just ticked off by how dumb your mother is, no offense. If she had time to call you to her bed and lament about how she didn't have a will, then she did have time to call a lawyer and say, hey, let's make a will. Pretty lazy and stupid if you ask me. I have a will. It's not hard to get one set up at all. Our next Reddit post is from the Mariana Winch. Several years ago, I worked the late shift as an online customer support agent for a women's clothing company. The other customer support agents and I were constantly mistreated by bad customers, and our managers did absolutely nothing to support us. The company valued its customers so much that the rules for dealing with them were disgustingly lax. For example, this one guy would call in, obviously masturbating, but we weren't allowed to hang up on him because he never actually said that he was doing that. We had a 3-strike policy where a customer could say pretty much anything they wanted to 3 times before they were disconnected and banned. But we also had a 1-day turnover policy where if a customer was cut off for inappropriate behavior, the ban was reset the next day. So someone could come in, cuss at you 3 times, get kicked off, and then come in and do it again the next day. The entire time I worked there, I never saw a single person get permanently banned. Not even the masturbating guy. I eventually ended up quitting specifically because a customer harassed me to the point of crying, and my manager's response was that I could have an unpaid 10-minute break now instead of my 15-minute break later. Yeah. One of the worst customers was this woman called Kathy. This woman would start a chat with us after midnight while drunk. She admitted to this. She would ask questions like, "What jeans do you think go with this top?" While the customer service agent was answering, Kathy would say things like, "Wow, this is taking so long. Imagine working a minimum wage job at midnight. Bet you want to kill yourself." Warning number 1. The next time, it would get a little worse. "Wow, you're such a loser. Have you ever thought about killing yourself? I would if I was you." Warning number 2. The last time each night, it would be something like, "I hope you die. You're so sad. You should kill yourself." At that point, we would let her know that we could no longer help her and we would disconnect her. Then she would pop back and chat within a few days and the whole thing would start over again. She always said the same kinds of things. She clearly knew that she could say 3 separate terrible things to us. Our managers never helped or stepped in. One time, I looked this woman up. I wanted to know who she was. To my surprise, I found out that she was a therapist. She even had her own practice. I was baffled. What she did was a horrible, cruel, unkind thing, and I couldn't believe a therapist would do this. I later quit working at the company, and I waited a few weeks. Then I made a phone call to Kathy's practice. I spoke to Kathy. I told her I was seeking therapy. During our intake call, she asked me what kind of issues I was facing. "Well," I said, "I do this really weird, psychotic thing a few nights a week. I get really drunk, and I start a chat with minimum wage customer support agents, and I tell them multiple times that they should kill themselves. That's so effing crazy, right?" She made a tiny noise. A moment passed, and the call disconnected. My friends at the company said that she never messaged them again. Love the top post from Adventurous Zebra. You should have anonymously posted that to her Yelp page as well. Yeah, not only would that be like good petty revenge, but also I feel like her patients have a right to know that this is the type of person that she is. That was r/Pettyrevenge, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.